Yeah. So we learned something today.
We did. I think it's important. At least this show is educational. Maybe not for children, but
yeah. Well, I don't know if children listen to this show. But...
I kind of hope not, but I don't know. Maybe a very specific type of child. I don't know. I don't know what kind.
Not just one of those general children.
not your average, child that you find in the wilderness.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want that.
No, certainly not. I'm Tom Dickinson.
And I'm Louis Midas.
And this is The Cloister Room,
a podcast about Doctor Who and other things.
And we're talking about Colditz.
We sure are.
What did you think of it?
I really liked it.
Did you?
I really did.
I like it a lot too. This is not a universally beloved story.
Is it really? Is it really not?
It is not. I think there are some people who would rate it pretty low because, I don't know, I think there are some people who just don't think it's that interesting. And there's also, and I would agree with this completely, I think the sound design is a lot worse than what Big Finish usually does.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly was a step down because what I've heard is mostly their later stuff, or at least way later than this, and so yeah, it was definitely noticeable that there were, I don't know, it seemed like sound effects weren't quite up to the standard to which I had been accustomed. It seemed like like some of the background audio was maybe not looping, but kind of you could tell it was just inserted, which was a little bit weird. But yeah.
And they put a reverb effect on the voices to show that they were inside or something, and it didn't quite work for me.
Yeah. So I could see those complaints. I could see how it would be like difficult to listen to. I could see that. But as far as like the actual story is concerned, I thought it was really good.
It is really good. And I was thinking of what audios we should do, and I thought of The Kingmaker, and I thought of this because they're both audios that I like a lot. And I wasn't thinking of the fact that the story is actually pretty similar between the two of them.
It kind of really is. Well, yeah, and I was kind of thinking about that while I was listening to this. Is that I wonder if that's just maybe I was kind of getting into your head a little bit, and I was kind of thinking like maybe this is just the story you like. Maybe this is like the platonic ideal of Doctor Who stories.
I don't think that it is. Because I think messing with like having time travel stuff like this is fun once in a while, but you shouldn't do it every week for Doctor Who.
Yeah. It's probably for the best. Although, I have to say like this is a little bit it's a different spin is the thing. But yeah, I mean, I think cuz it's whereas the Kingmaker more or less is just illuminating a mystery that could or could not be historically accurate. I mean, it would be kind of bonkers if it were historically accurate, but I mean, it could be. I mean, there's no one to say it didn't happen in this very weird way where Richard III came forward in time and took the place of Shakespeare at some later point in his life. There's nothing exactly to refute it. But here we have something that's clearly something like where time has clearly gone off the rails, and it's just like there's issues involving like parallel universes, basically, or not even parallel, like a split timeline kind of situation.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, and that's I really like how it takes quite a while for that to come out.
Yeah,
like you have to kind of wonder what Klein's deal is. I mean, it's a slow drip of information that they reveal to you about where she's coming from and what she's doing and why and how she got here and what it is exactly that she wants.
Well, and I kind of knew something was up. I don't know, in one of the first lines she has, or one of the first interactions she has with the Doctor, she says something about it's something to imply that, you know, the Doctor's not in the right time, basically. And I don't remember exactly what the line is. But she makes some reference, I think, to the 1940s, and like she actually like says the 1940s, which seemed odd to me. And so I kind of got the sense almost right away that she was some kind of time traveler. But I mean, like, yeah, as far as like the actual context of like how she traveled through time and all that stuff, that's something that doesn't get revealed, yeah, until basically I think like if not halfway, like 2/3 of the way through. You know, it's something very far in, where you finally get all the pieces you need.
And you only really find out... It's pretty far when you find out like that the Doctor was actually behind her time travel. That in an alternate future version of the Eighth Doctor, a regeneration from the McCoy Doctor is actually responsible for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And it's interesting because there are a lot of different ways you could have approached this story, like, you know, like what perspective you could have told it from. But it's interesting coming at it from, like, basically like the second iteration of this loop, where, you know, it's already looped once, and we're getting, you know, the Doctor arriving for the second loop. And it's interesting because, you know, you have to, like, you know, pick up and figure out what's going on and what everyone's doing and where it all fits in. And, you know, because there could have been a version of this story where, you know, the Doctor lands, things go horribly wrong, and then we see that perspective where it's an alternate timeline, which would have taken a long time to, you know, you would have had to have covered a span of like 20 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting that they didn't do that, and they just kind of picked up with like, okay, well, we're going to have this story, and it's just going to be talked about, but then the thing we're going to focus on is a completely different version of events, or a very similar, but, you know, distinctly, like the outcome is distinctly different. But that's a fascinating thing, you know.
Yeah, and it actually happens to be true that eventually Big Finish did tell the story of the first loop.
Oh, really?
Yeah. See, this was not the final appearance of Klein.
Ah.
She gets away in the end, and the Doctor kind of worries about the implications of her still being out there.
Right.
And this story was released in 2001, and it wasn't until 2009 that Big Finish picked up on Klein again.
Huh, wow.
Yeah, so both this version of Klein and actually the version of Klein from the proper timeline end up appearing in several subsequent Big Finish audios as part of like a larger storyline involving what she does next, and she actually becomes a companion.
Huh. Interesting.
Which is odd because she's a villain here.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
What ends up happening is the Doctor kind of runs into her again, basically can't let her be on her own, so he kind of drags her along with him for a little while, and things go badly. But there is a sort of short story that's part of that storyline called Klein's Story, which features Paul McGann playing an alternate version of the Doctor after Sylvester McCoy, who sort of manipulates Klein into doing all this.
Huh. Interesting. Well, yeah, and it's funny because I don't know if these things are actually equivalent, but I think it's funny that the alternate Eighth Doctor calls himself Schmidt.
Yeah.
Being that is so close to Smith, you know.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that was intentional.
Yeah, I figured it must be. But it's kind of funny. But yeah, no, that's fascinating. I would actually be interested to listen to that story. Yeah, I mean, I know, this is definitely similar in some respects to The Kingmaker, but I think it's still different enough where, like, I wasn't bored by this or anything. Like, I thought it was still a really strong story. And, yeah, I don't know. I do find that I don't really get tired that easily of stories that involve more time travel than usual. Like, I'm all right with that.
Yeah, I think what matters is like if it's a strong story, and I think it is a strong story, and I think like Klein's a really great character. Mm-hmm. I think she's such a good villain because she's so, I don't know, she's like so ruthless and practical, and but also like not completely unhinged, right. Like, and she's only doing what is right from her perspective, and it's very easy to see why she'd have that perspective.
Well, yeah, because that's the thing is, you know, because where she's from, there's this, you know, quote unquote golden age, which seems so fascinating to me, and like I really want to know more about that. Like, because it seems to me, and it could just be that this is from a very warped perspective where, like, you know, if you're German, yeah, I'm sure things are awesome. You know, it might be that the rest of the world has a very different opinion on that. But it would be fascinating to explore that and see, like, oh, well, what's so great about this, you know? Like, I want to know. Because, I mean, well, and I guess, like, I don't know. Like, I'm thinking of World War II and how, you know, devastating it was for everybody. Mm-hmm. And it kind of seems like, I don't know how you could, like, if Germany actually did win, I'm kind of wondering, like, how it could end with anybody happy.
Yeah, well, I mean, she seems to think it's a great world, but, you know, as the Doctor points out, she has blonde hair and blue eyes.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
It would be a great world for her, but it wouldn't necessarily be a great world for everybody else.
Yeah, so I really want to know more about that. I could totally see that, though. I could totally see, like, oh, yeah, you know, here's just a subset of people who are totally brainwashed into thinking everything's awesome. And it's also fascinating because, you know, this, you know, with Klein tinkering with time, you don't really see this very often, but, like, you can see things really go wrong. Like things can really severely change when the Doctor's not, you know, in control, which is fascinating to me. You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, you wouldn't think that something as small as a CD Walkman could change history that much.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I think that's a fascinating. It's fascinating to hear that because you the CD Walkman, you know, you hear about it at first and it doesn't seem like a big deal. Like, it's introduced early on in the story, but then later on you realize, oh, there's lasers that are used in that, and if they could reverse engineer that, then that would, you know, give them a huge technological advantage.
Yeah, wow. And I mean, like, I don't know how they make that leap, you know, because, you know, the doctor talks about how, like, well, you know, both sides were basically already in a race to create the A-bomb, and then, you know, that this just kind of gave them a push in the right direction, I guess. Which, I mean, like, I don't know enough about either of those two technologies beyond, like, what's on the you know, sort of most basic physics behind them. But I mean, like, yeah, right, I guess, like, one of those two things could feed into the other. And, you know, sure. Like, yeah, I could see that. But yeah, that's really fascinating that, you know, yeah, it's fascinating how that could spiral out of control. And I mean, you kind of wonder almost, like, how many times does the Doctor have to sort of nudge history back onto the rails, you know, without anyone really even thinking about it, you know, like, you know, getting back a CD player. How many times has he gotten back a CD player when you know, when everyone else just was having their adventure, you know, uncovering, you know, who done it or whatever?
It's kind of extraordinary the lengths he ends up having to go to fix his mistake. He has to, you know, regenerate and then spend a decade undercover and then, you know, manipulate someone over, like, the incredible long term.
Yeah. Yeah, wow.
And then negate his own existence in doing that. Like, that, I don't know. I just find that idea, because it's great because there's the Doctor in this story, and then there's the implied other Doctor who we never meet in this story, and you can only imagine, you know, how he feels about the fact that Ace is dead, and about the fact that, you know, the Nazis won, and it's all, you know, his and Ace's fault, and that he has to do these things, and so it's like this big gap in the story that you can only fill in with your mind, but there's a lot there.
Yeah, wow, that's really depressing too. Like, just how dark that would be, though, you know. But yeah, no, wow, really. I mean, it's almost, you know, we talk about, like, this story doesn't cover any of that, and I mean, I feel like, that part of the story is really, really kind of a downer if you think about it too much. But I mean, I don't know, it's almost like in, like, Turn Left or whatever, you know, like, you know, the Doctor just, I imagine he just kind of knew, like, oh, well, I guess I gotta die. You know, this has gotta get things back on the rails again, so here we go. But yeah, and I mean, like, you know, that's, you know, the Doctor has said at points, like, well, that's how I see time, you know, what is, what could be, what must not, you know, all that stuff. So, you know, I guess he can kind of see what he needs to do to get things back. But that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and that includes, like, playing nice with the Nazis for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like heiling Hitler and doing all that stuff. And that, yeah.
Yeah, wow, that would be really draining after a while, you know. But yeah, geez. Yeah, that's true. He does. He has to, you know, really get in there, and yeah, wow.
Yeah, and I love how, you know, when they first step out of the TARDIS, you know, Ace is like, well, at least we know there's no way it's one of your master plans, because we just landed here by accident. And then at the end she's like, oh, wow. somehow it ended up being one. That was I thought that was fun.
Yeah, leave it to the Seventh Doctor to be able to conjure a master plan, even for places he hasn't been to yet.
What did you think of the Seventh Doctor and Ace?
I do like their kind of relationship where there's kind of this. I don't know. I do like it though. I mean, I certainly like. I don't know. I like them as characters, and I think they're fun. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Sylvester McCoy kind of goes off the rails a little bit when he shouts.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think, so there are some aspects of like when the way he plays the Doctor on audio that I'm not entirely crazy about. But other than that, I think he's pretty good, and Sophie Aldred as Ace is great as ever, and I do think they do a good job of capturing those characters. But one of the things that's kind of confusing about some of these audios with Ace and the Doctor is that it's not entirely clear when they're supposed to be set. In that she seems to be older than she is in the TV series. Like at some point they mentioned that she looks like she's about 20, which I think is a little older than we're supposed to think she is in the show. But it's not clear whether this is supposed to happen like after the novels or what, and that's never been entirely clear. So,
interesting.
But I do, I think it doesn't matter all that much, and I do think it's clear just that she's been traveling with the Doctor for quite some time. She's experienced. She's got kind of like a sense of humor about the Doctor's master plan. She seems to let some of the stuff roll off her back a little bit more than she does in the TV show.
Yeah.
So I think they've kind of matured her a little bit, and I do think that's kind of fun to hear.
Yeah.
Although it's interesting that she forsakes the name of Ace at the end of this.
Yeah, does that last? Like, are we, because, I mean, I imagine there's stories set after this.
Yeah, it lasts for the next couple stories, but I think they just kind of forgot about it and then started calling her Ace again.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a little bit, I mean, not that it's, like, weird. I mean, if you want to eschew a nickname, you go right ahead. I mean, that's, real people do that all the time. But, I mean, it's also kind of weird because this is how you know the character. I mean, it'd be weird if, like, even in, like, promotional material, they start referring it to the Seventh Doctor and Dorothy. It's like, is this a new character? That's a little bit weird.
Yeah, I mean, all the fans know her as Ace. It's this iconic character from the TV series. You can't really rename them for the audios.
Yeah. No.
So I think for the next few audios, it's like the Doctor keeps calling her Ace, and she's like, it's just McShane now. And then she kind of drops it.
Yeah, all right.
I think she drops it around the time they end up picking up another companion named Hex, and then that's sort of at that point she stops fussing about it and just goes by Ace instead.
Right, you gotta keep up with the monosyllabic nicknames or just names, identifiers. Mm-hmm. You can't. McShane's that's too unwieldy. That's twice as long to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I really like how Ace can kind of like take care of herself. Like she's escaping on her own with like zero planning from the Doctor, pretty much. She's kind of like really taking the initiative here, and this is pretty. I don't know. It just seems like.
And the Doctor just kind of trusts her to do that too.
Yeah, and I like that. I really do like that. I think that's. I don't know. It makes it more fun to know that like there's these two interesting characters who can work independently and move the plot forward and not have to like wait for the other one to show up. Yeah.
With the exception of when Klein tells him that Ace is supposed to die, I think the Doctor pretty much just assumes that Ace is going to get up to her own thing and do what she needs to do, and that he doesn't need to be constantly fretting about getting back to her or anything like that. He's free to, like he says when Klein takes him away, he says, "You're doing this because this is what I want to happen. Like I want you to do this because I want to find out what you're up to." So he doesn't like make it a priority to not get split up from Ace. He just gives her this long leash and allows her to do her own thing.
Yeah,
and it seems like she completely deserves that.
Yeah. No, she's definitely like on her A game or whatever. She knows what's up, and it really it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
She's a great companion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come around and say it. She's a great companion.
She is great.
I don't think that's controversial or anything. I just felt like
no. I think most people probably agree with you. How did you like David Tennant?
It's funny because I don't know how we reconcile. Like, I mean, it's easy to reconcile like his sort of guest appearance in Scream of the Schalke, where like, oh, okay, yeah, this is just like a one-off thing. But like here, he's face to face, or I mean, I'm assuming he's face to face with, the Seventh Doctor. So, and presumably he looks as he does in the TV show. So I'm assuming. So I feel like we have to say that at some point the Seventh Doctor absorbed the image of David Tennant and then became him 3 regenerations later, or 4 regenerations, I guess. Or wait, no, I don't know how to count. But anyway, no, I thought David Tennant was great. I think like he does a lot of like kind of excessive acting. I don't know.
Yeah,
like he does in the TV show. So I felt like it was true to his. He was doing him. That's that's a great thing about David Tennant. He's not afraid to really go you really go 100% on acting, or indeed 110% on acting.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm not sure about his German accent. And it was weird that they were I guess because I'm not gonna really get into the TARDIS's translation circuits, but I mean they were, I guess, actually speaking English because they knew English, because they were they had English prisoners.
Yeah, yeah,
but
and it had to differentiate between the POWs and the Nazis. So
right.
So giving them the accents, that's kind of that signifier of who's who.
Yeah, but then they actually do speak, I think, German at points. I'm pretty sure. So I mean, I don't know. I feel like I don't like. I probably don't want to get into this because this is probably a discussion that is boring to absolutely everyone except for me. But I kind of feel like the TARDIS knows when to back off when it comes to translating.
Probably.
I think this is the only way I can figure out how to rationalize things, is that sometimes the TARDIS just knows oh, okay, well you don't need that translated, or whatnot. And
yeah,
so,
yeah.
I think that's what I'm going to go with. But
if someone is intentionally speaking German to an English person, then it'll preserve that intent.
Yes. Yeah, I'm all about the intent.
Yeah, but I thought he was good. That was a very different character from the Doctor.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because he really does do this kind of evil, a little bit scummy kind of Nazi. I really believe it. He really goes into it, and he's yeah, no, it's so different, because it is so different from the Doctor. But yeah, no, I really liked it.
This is only one of many roles he played at Big Finish, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was also in something called Medicinal Purposes as a character called Daft Jamie, who was just he was a mentally disabled person.
Okay.
He's in the Unit series that they did as a Unit Colonel. He was in one of the Unbound plays as a nameless Time Lord.
Huh.
And he actually starred in the 3rd season of Dalek Empire as one of the protagonists. So,
jeez. So yeah. I mean, I guess if nothing else, it would be impossible for the Doctor to not have at one point or another absorbed his visage and claimed it for his own.
I guess that's what we have to assume.
This is I think it has to be. It's you spend a lot of time hearing people talk about chicken parm sandwiches or something, and all of a sudden you're craving a chicken parm sandwich.
Wow. Well, whatever the case, I mean, presumably it's just the same thing, whatever it is with Peter Capaldi.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Although actually, speaking of which, in Fires of Pompeii, Tracy Childs, who plays Klein, appears in that.
Oh, right. I saw that on the Wikipedia page. They mentioned that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we explain that?
Geez, I don't even know. If you subscribe to the theory that Caecilius is actually the 12th Doctor who has gone back in disguise or something to do something.
He brought Klein with him.
Exactly. He brought Klein along,
But which Klein, I wonder?
Oh, who knows?
The one from this timeline or the one from that timeline?
Well, who really knows? I mean, maybe it's both, maybe they swap out, But yeah, no, it's fun because I do like David Tennant, as an actor and everything, and so it's always nice to hear him or see him, as the case may be. So I like it. I like that he's in so much.
Yeah. I wish they could get him back.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't playing the Doctor, if they could just have him do random roles again.
Exactly. Wouldn't that be great? Well, yeah, and it's funny because, you definitely get the sense that he's really a big fan of Doctor Who. For how many roles he's willing to do just to get close to the show.
Yeah.
So that really shines through, I think.
So, were you previously familiar with stories involving Colditz Castle?
No, and it's kind of weird because I didn't realize that it was like popular. At all.
Yeah, Ace makes a few references to a board game that's based on it.
Right. I remember that. But yeah, no, I guess I looked it up afterwards. It actually is was a board game, like Escape from Colditz Castle or something.
Yeah.
That's remarkable. Like,
maybe
I don't know
it never made it to the States. I don't know.
Maybe not. It does seem like a thing where that might be more of a Europe centric kind of a thing where I mean, not to say that it didn't affect us, but I think it probably. I would say that it affected Europe way more than it affected the United States. So I feel like they probably got more of the culture. I feel like there's more of a culture there, and they're more. It's richer, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, and I feel like I don't know whether there always was like nowadays. It seems like board game hobbyists are really into European board games.
Oh, really?
Well, like Settlers of Catan and all that.
Oh, is that
stuff.
European?
Yeah, I believe so. Like all the like hipster board games are European.
I did not know that. I did not know that at all. Huh. Well, and yeah, it seems weird to me because I don't know. I would have thought a lot of board games would just naturally cross the Atlantic. I don't have any reason to really think that, but I would have just thought they would just kind of cross over, and we would get everyone. We have Clue, which is based on I think it was British board game Cluedo.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I don't know. I've never been able to figure out why they named it that. But
I don't know. I don't know what Cluedo means, but I know what Clue means.
Right, that one I understand. That's accessible. Maybe they did that just to dumb it down for us Americans. It could be.
Yeah.
Because I would not be into a board game called Cluedo. That seems ridiculous. But a game called Clue, I can get behind that. Or indeed, a movie based on the board game. But yeah, so I would have thought we'd just get everything, and vice versa. Do they not have Monopoly over there? Because Monopoly seems like a very American game.
Yeah, it does. I honestly don't know. I wonder what it is with renaming board games, because we have Chutes and Ladders, which is a rename of Snakes and Ladders.
Oh yeah.
I wonder if they just don't think we can handle the original name.
Well, and it's weird because it doesn't seem like many other media do that. Because maybe it's because I think it wasn't enough for the Jack and Daxter franchise. It wasn't enough to just call the game Jak 2 in Europe. I think they had to call it Jak 2 Renegade.
Ooh.
And I don't know why. That seems weird to me. But I can't think of any other media that really does that, though. Doctor Who came over as Doctor Who.
There are examples I can think of, like Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles.
Wait, what?
Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles.
I am so glad they changed that.
No. It's Ninja Turtles. That's the original.
Oh.
The original is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then in other parts of the world, specifically I think the UK, it's known as Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles.
What?
Or it was. I don't know if it still is, but
do they not have ninjas over there? I could understand in wait, are ninjas Japanese or Chinese? They're Japanese.
They're Japanese. Yeah.
So I can understand in Japan, if you want to say oh well, let's not make a big deal out of ninjas because just everyone's ninjas over here.
Everyone's ninjas in Japan. Yeah.
I think that's just a given. I can understand there, they would want to just they're heroes. They're not necessarily ninjas. Now would that maybe have been a violence thing? Maybe
I think it was.
Okay.
I wouldn't know, but
it seems like it would be a violence thing. We don't want to condone or endorse ninja behavior.
Another example is I know the UK show Danger Man got brought over to the US as a show called Secret Agent.
Okay.
It was just called Secret Agent.
Now, Danger Man, was that like danger, comma, man, exclamation point? Like
No, it was
danger,
just Danger Man.
Oh no, okay. So it was like hyphenated like Spider-Man. So that's weird to me. Okay. Was the UK show about a secret agent?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay. So they just felt the need to like really spell it out.
Yeah, I guess.
For the US.
And they even gave they even changed the theme song, so in the US it was a theme song that went like, Secret Agent Man, Secret Agent Man.
I've heard that theme. I never knew it was to a show.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that was.
And it's not even the original theme to the show. It's the theme to the US remake of Danger Man. I don't even know what the UK theme is like. But yeah,
presumably a lot different.
Because
you can't.
That show was the precursor to The Prisoner.
Oh,
so The Prisoner is a show featuring a nameless spy who has retired, and and he's also played by the same guy who played the spy in Danger Man. So there's controversy over whether it's supposed to be the same character or not.
So did they ever do a US sequel with a more obvious name?
I don't know.
I don't know how you get more obvious than The Prisoner.
I think they just brought The Prisoner over as The Prisoner.
Well, I guess that's all right, because Prisoner is pretty obvious.
They could have got, I don't know, like Guy in a Prison or something.
They could always go that route. That would work, I think. Okay, so I guess there is a I was mistaken. There's a long, proud tradition of dumbing down the names of media so that us poor United Statesians can understand it.
Yeah, so maybe Escape from Colditz came over here under a different name and we just don't know. Like maybe when it came over here it was called Mousetrap or Candyland.
I can see it now. I can see the Nazi parallels in Candyland now. I can see it. Queen Frostine. Yeah.
That's Klein.
That's Klein. It's got to be Klein.
Yeah. In any case, yeah, I gather some of the escape attempts that are referred to are actual historical escape attempts. Like something about a glider was said, and there was an attempt with the glider. Same thing with like a tunnel. But yeah, apparently there were successful escape attempts later on than this.
Yeah, well, right, and I kind of had that sense that that this was something that was done all the time. I mean, there's been a ton of movies dedicated to the idea of prisoners escaping from World War II, POW camps. That's like that probably is a whole subgenre of the World War II film that you could I don't know. It's probably got its own Dewey Decimal.
Probably
Decimal.
Yeah, even though the Dewey Decimal is for nonfiction work.
Oh right. I forgot about that. well, that's almost
also not for films.
Oh well, yeah. Okay. It's
for nonfiction books.
Well, hang on now. So, is there a similar system for other media? I feel like there must be, or there should be.
Well,
or not.
I mean, I briefly volunteered in the library,
yeah.
And the library I volunteered in just had the books broken out by its own categorization system, like mystery, science fiction, fantasy, romance, thrillers, horror, etc. And within that, it was alphabetized. But I think Library of Congress lumps everything together. But that's an alternative to Dewey Decimal System.
So I didn't, wow, okay. I didn't realize the Library of Congress did their own thing.
So we learned something today. You know what I really liked? I really liked the whole notion of the prisoners and the guards kind of coexisting, and how everyone kind of has a different sort of perspective on it, and some of them are more civil to one another, and then some of them like Kurtz is very brutal and authoritarian to the rest of them, but Schaefer is more oh, well, we're all in this together, so let's just kind of try to be civil. And I mean, obviously they're prisoners, and so we're not going to treat them like guests, but we also don't have to treat them like savages or anything. Yeah. And he strikes deals with Flying Officer Gower. And they become friends and stuff like that. So I thought, I don't know how true that is to the way it was to be in a prisoner of war camp, but it makes for kind of an interesting kind of politicking.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think you see that kind of in and there's even there are rules where oh yeah, you don't hurt anybody, and this isn't really like a quote unquote gentleman's rule, but you don't hurt anybody on your way out because because then they'll just shoot you. But there's lines you don't cross, and it's everyone more or less gets along. But yeah, I think that's actually I don't know I don't know if this is like an actual thing, but I know I've seen like similar depictions in other escape from POW camp movies. I mean, I don't know if it was in I'm trying to think, because I know I've seen like The Great Escape and like what's it, Stalag 17, I think those are probably the only two I've seen, but I feel like at least in one of those there was a similar sort of system where like, yeah, all right, well, the guards will get you, maybe barter for some stuff with the prisoners and things like that. And there's an understanding there. And it's not all like they're treated like animals or whatever. So I think that's, I want to believe that maybe this is just like me being like naive or whatever, but I want to believe that was the way it was, where like they all sort of had that sort of respect for one another. And I don't know, that's kind of a thing that I kind of want to believe, that like in the midst of the horrors of war, they were still kind of human beings to each other. I want to believe that.
Yeah, I think there's probably a certain kind of person who will just be like Kurtz and will kind of let the power go to their head. Mm. And then there's probably a certain kind of person who will be like Schaefer, and like they'll think like the only way to stay sane throughout, this, I don't want to be here any more than you do. So the only way for us to kind of stay sane is to treat each other like humans at the very least, and to just acknowledge that, all right, we're all here to wait out the end of the war, and then it'll all be over, and then we'll all go our separate ways, and it doesn't have to be the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I think in fiction and in life, and I think that's just how it is. So yeah, but I think that's cool, and I think that's it's cool that they show that here, and it does make it feel like it's more real almost. Once again, I don't know if it's because they're pulling from concepts I was already kind of in sync with because of other media, but it certainly feels more human this way. That there's people respecting one another. Yeah,
and they even have like at one point Schaefer feels like Gowers stabbed him in the back, and he's like, "Hey, that's not cool." And then they get there's like bad blood between them, and then they make up, and it's like, aw. Isn't that cute? They're friends.
They are friends. It's nice. It's nice to have friends. So there's a reference here, and it's more of a joke. That the Doctor makes a reference to, or asks, somewhat jokingly, if Klein left the handbrake on in the TARDIS.
Uh-huh.
And that's maybe not like funny, but well, it's funny on its own. But it's also, it also sort of comes back later, because maybe not handbrakes in particular, but River seems to think that the Doctor should not leave the brakes on, and yet here he seems to be endorsing it.
Well, yeah. So I guess I don't know. Maybe that's just his style.
It could be. It's like like you're like riding side saddle or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah, it's just a different way of doing it, and it's not necessarily wrong. It makes that sort of loud noise, It's just a byproduct. Yeah.
If that's even true, or maybe River was winding him up.
I kind of like to think that she was just winding him up. I think that is sort of funnier. But I also like the thought that, maybe you could leave the brakes off and then bad stuff like this happens. And maybe and it could be that, that the Doctor leaves the brakes on not because he's forgetful, but maybe he leaves the brakes on because, a long time ago he learned that was important, and he's maybe since forgotten why that was important, but he knows to still do it.
Yeah, and that's how habits form sometimes.
Exactly. That's, it becomes a thing where it's like, that's just the way we do things. And then sometimes, like there was that experiment with the monkeys that I see cited on the internet sometimes, where, you have a bunch of monkeys, you teach them, like, if they, like, you put food on, like, the top of a ladder, and then every time one of them goes to get the food, you, like, spray them with a hose or whatever, and then you gradually swap out the monkeys, and then, and then they learn it's bad, and so that whenever a new monkey goes and tries to get up the ladder, then the rest of them, like, pull them back down and won't let them go up. And then eventually you replace all the monkeys such that no monkey has been doused with water, and yet they all know not to go up that ladder. And so maybe what I'm saying here is that River is a new monkey, and that she needs to be taught to leave the brakes on.
I have never heard this.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I as I understand it, that's just like an experiment. I don't know if it was an actual experiment that was done, or if it's just like an Aesop's fable or whatever.
Same thing, scientific experiments, fables.
I think they're the same thing, yeah.
About the same level of reliability.
Yeah. But
certainly the same level of applicability to Doctor Who.
I think so. I mean, I like to think so. But yeah, I think it's something about it's supposed to tell you something about society or something, or like corporate culture maybe, or something. But I mean, it also seems like a recipe for disaster, because, what if they just started getting the hose again? Here everyone was understanding that, this is what happens when you get a hose. I mean, like, not everything is an experiment. Not everyone is running something behind the scenes and is going to, usually in the real world, things happen for, like, not a reason, but, like, things have cause and effect. And so, if something bad happens, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that thing anymore. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know how applicable it is to anything at all. But it's a fun notion. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't an actual experiment. Maybe it was like a thought experiment. But it seems I mean, like, I don't know what the difference is between those two things either.
An actual experiment and a thought experiment?
I think a thought experiment is basically just like one that you posit, but you never actually do, so you don't actually know if it would work that way. You're just speculating wildly, I think.
A thought experiment is like where you create a scenario to try to determine what it is you really think about something.
I see. So, okay, I wouldn't call this, unless, well, I guess it does reveal...
It doesn't actually set out to prove anything.
No, it doesn't.
It's just a way to clarify what it is. Like, what it is two people disagree about.
I see. Okay. Then this, I think, falls more into the purview of actual experiments.
If it actually happened.
If it happened. If it's not a fable.
Yeah. Okay. It's one of those. It's an actual experiment or a thought experiment or a fable. One of those.
Yeah, Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. Just that there's a reference to handbrakes, and I like references to handbrakes.
Yeah, they're great, handbrakes.
Well, and I love the idea that, the TARDIS has brakes, because of course it would. It's a vehicle.
Yeah.
There's something ludicrous about it, but also something incredibly sensible.
Sure.
I also like the implication that that only the Doctor can get things out of his pockets.
Yeah.
And, like, it adds to the mythos that, like, he can pull anything he wants out of his pockets.
But no one else can find them.
Exactly. I like that. I think that's a good addition to the mythos.
Yeah.
What I want to know is, like, how that works in terms of, like, is all of the Doctor's clothing in the, like, because he has a wardrobe, does all of it feature these strange pockets? Or does clothing that's just exposed to the time vortex do this?
It could be clothing that's exposed to the time vortex, or it could just be that the TARDIS messes with the pockets of any garments that come into it. Just like it messes with the minds of any humans that come into it to give them the ability to translate.
Yeah.
It could mess with the pockets of any garments that come into it to give them, like, interchangeable hammer spaces. Hammer space is like an anime fandom term.
Oh,
it's like a mysterious void into which you can pull out, objects.
Oh,
but it could be that, like, it allows like a psychic link between the wearer and the garment, that it has like multiple iterations of each pocket.
Ah, yeah. Well, and that makes sense because the TARDIS obviously, it's already baked into the idea that it's bigger on the inside, and there is something going on with dimensions already. So yeah, why not extend that to pockets? It could be that the TARDIS is in fact just a pocket.
Ooh.
Yeah. But
wow.
Yeah, but yeah, I like, you know what? I like any theory that makes the TARDIS seem even like anything that sort of explores the idea or explains things by saying that it's just the TARDIS messing with people.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Along the lines with if you speak in the native language of the person that is like that the TARDIS is translating, it just comes out as Welsh. Like, I think that's just to mess with people.
It would almost have to be.
Oh, well, right? I mean, like, why Welsh? Otherwise.
Just to mess with people. Klein is indeed a recurring character, And if you wanted to follow her story, you would next want to listen to 1,000 Tiny Wings.
1,000 Tiny Wings.
Yep.
Huh. Like the iOS game?
Is that an iOS game?
Tiny Wings?
It could be. I don't play it, so I don't know anything about it. But
I think it is. I don't know.
Okay.
along with like Whale Trail and all those games I can't play because I don't have an iPhone.
So
I have a list. I have a list of games I'm going to play the second I finally cave and get an iOS device. They're going to be like 20 years old at that point.
Yeah, but it'll still be worth playing. So yeah, the next one is 1,000 Tiny Wings, and then Survival of the Fittest, and then The Architects of History.
Interesting.
It's a little trilogy.
Yeah, I do find it interesting. I think like this is a character that I could really enjoy listening to more of their story. Because it's like an accidental time traveler. Like, how fun is that? Mm-hmm. I think it's a lot of fun. An accidental time traveler from a parallel Nazi Germany where they won.
Where they did indeed win.
What more could you want?
I don't know what more you can want, but no, yeah, I do think that the Klein trilogy that follows this is very, very good and very interesting. It kind of follows up on, all right, what would Klein do next? And what would she do when she met up with the doctor? How would she react to him, and how would they sort of interact with one another? And that gets kind of interesting. And then there are more Klein stories beyond that.
Yeah, that seems like, it seems like a good. I'm fascinated to see her as a companion. Like, I would be fascinated to see that term.
She is a very interesting companion.
Well, and I think it kind of gets back to that idea of like having a sort of combative relationship. I mean, I don't know if this is actually how it plays out, but I mean, I like anything for a potential to have a more combative relationship between the Doctor and companion, where like neither of them is necessarily happy to be with each other, but they gotta muddle through whatever it is they're muddling through. I'm all for that.
Yeah, it kind of takes it back to where it was in the beginning.
Exactly, and I always love that brilliant return to form.
Next up, we'll be doing Bad Wolf and Parting of the Ways.
Yeah. Well, and this is the first time in a very long time that we've talked about the Ninth Doctor directly. I mean, I think
we did very few Ninth Doctor stories. I don't think he ever came up randomly.
No. It's been a while since we've started doing, or since we did random stories. Yeah. I can't remember exactly the year we started doing that, but because the last episode we did was The Unquiet Dead, which I think that was still in, I don't know if that was 2010 or if that was 2011 at that point, but it's been a while. I don't remember.
It has been a while. It has.
Yeah. So it's a long time coming.
I would say so, and I think this is a good one to discuss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I think it's a good one. Mm-hmm. It's a good one for the Ninth Doctor too.